space and used correctly, that can really serve as a nice way to kind of, especially for scientific minds and objective people, kind of say, oh, these are the 3 things that need to get done, these are the things I want to have to do. To some extent, there's an element of synthesis also, I think, when you're doing these things. So you often, well, no matter what you're doing, personal statement, grant proposal, you should know a lot more about that than your general audience who's going to be reviewing that. But you want to make sure that you are distilling it down to the essential elements, the most important things. And sometimes that can be tricky to do, but you need to say, this is what I need to focus on, and I need to present this sort of information because it's going to be the most
compelling.
Compelling, I guess is a really good word for it. This is going to be the most compelling part of this. And this other part, which is important, I can put here, and so that they know that I'm not just forgetting about that, I'll put here, but it's kind of the dull, boring stuff, so I'm going to emphasize this other stuff more.
When it comes to things like posters, how do you know how many photos to put? Like, I know you
Yeah, so poster design is a little bit different because poster is as much as about visual impact and overall organizational presentation as it is writing. In fact, writing is really kind of the least important part of a poster, believe it or not. You need the basic parts here, but you also want to make your poster visually appealing. You want to present things in a way that people who come up to it can access information and then get into it in a more formal way. We could do an entire section on posters. So my recommendation is get online, or if you have the opportunity to go to a poster session, take notes, look at what you think works, what's visually appealing to you. And there's a wide range. This is something where you can show your creativity. Typically, my advice for, well, number one, some very practical, technical things. When you first do a poster, most people do them in PowerPoint. You can use other types of software to do it. Most people do them in PowerPoint. The most important thing you do when you first set up your poster is make the document as large as your poster is going to be. Right? So I've seen multiple times where people go in, they'll open up a PowerPoint slide, they'll start putting things, it looks beautiful. And then they'll go to print it out, and what they don't realize is that their document is, maybe slide size, or the resolution of it is set to screen resolution. And so then when you blow it up to full size, all you have are pixelated, fuzzy images. So that's the first technical thing. Organization, I find you either want 3 or 4 columns, again, depending on the size of the poster and how much text you need to fit in. So you're going to organize it in 3 columns. You usually don't want any lines between your columns. You're just going to organize them as if they were columns in a magazine or newspaper. When you're adding images, you want to add images in a way that overall is going to provide a nice visual impact. So you usually don't want all your images on the top and all your text down below. Color scheme can also be somewhat important. But again, what works for some people may or may not work for other people. So what I would do is put it together, have number one, somebody who knows something about the field look at it, maybe 2 people, and then show it to as many people as you can. And sometimes you'll find that there are different people who have different value as editors and giving you feedback. Some people are too polite and they're like, yeah, everything looks great. And those are not the people you want. Right? As difficult as it might be, you want the people that are going to be critical. Not overly so, but they should be people that can tell you this is what. And then once you have their feedback, particularly if you have multiple lines of feedback, you can take or leave their critiques that they're giving you. So if you don't think it's a valuable critique or it may not apply to what you're doing, and say, yeah, you're wrong. That's okay. I like it that way. So to some extent, you need to trust your own gut feeling.
Now, when it comes to papers, also, I've had to read a few articles.
Yeah.
Now, I noticed some of them put very few pictures in it, and some of them are very detailed. I guess maybe it's on what they're talking about.
Yes, and so when you're looking at especially primary sort of literature, so you're doing an experiment, you're trying to communicate that experiment. Okay. Communication is key. And so any pictures that are there to not communicate are usually not accepted or at least not looked on. I'm going to put this here, I'm going to put a nice pretty picture of my study organism because it's really great. That's great for a poster, but you're wasting valuable space. Think of space as a premium when you're writing for a literature. So unless that picture accomplishes communicating some sort of information, then you're going to usually leave it out of the scientific writing.
I guess because I look at it like when you have to sell something, it's not all about his words.
Well, but remember what Joe said. Selling something is usually the only. What we typically think of as scientific writing, like for a journal, like I had here. Right, this is really the only place where you're not selling something, and actually, a little bit in the final part where you're doing the final discussion about why it's important and your results. Then can be a little bit of selling there, but it's still kind of a very efficient, straightforward way of presenting information. Anything else, guys? Okay, last word of advice. I'm happy to go over things again. Often time is limited, so a little bit of preparation or a little bit of warning, and I can do that. But for many things, you're going to have much more appropriate critical reviewers. Best, and hopefully you can do this, and it might be a little bit difficult with some advisors, but your primary research advisor is going to be your best place to go to. Your second best place is other people that are working in the lab with you that know background, particularly if they've been there longer than you. But even if they haven't, it's a fresh set of eyes and say, hey, look at this, what do you think? And that's really valuable. Science is all about communication. It's about verbal communication. It's about written communication. And learning how to do this is going to be critical no matter what. Even if you're not going to be a scientist, if you're going to be a doctor, learning how to communicate things is going to be of incredible value to you both during your training and even post-training when you're in your career. So it's really worth your while to spend a little bit of time, take the effort, put in the time, and especially if you haven't had it, because sometimes people get to their career and they have not had even basic writing, let alone scientific writing. And most people don't even really get that till the end of their graduate, or the end of their undergraduate or beginning of their graduate work. So much of what I learned about scientific writing was just taught to me by my advisor, because I'd never written a scientific paper. I'd never done a poster before. I'd written one personal statement for my application to graduate school, and that was it. And so that was very helpful to have a mentor there and other people who could help me out with that. Okay, guys, we're out of time. I think there's a lot more pizza here. If you want to come up and grab some pizza, please do that. Again, we've got another meeting this week. We're going to have data presentation by a student, and then the week after that will be our final data presentation. So keep an eye on emails, and we'll get that information out to you. Thanks for being here today.